burning?
Otherwise it is.
Were your ears burning?
No.
Okay, it is 7:03, so I would like to welcome everybody and thank you for coming to tonight's meeting. We did start at 6 o'clock and we dealt with some personnel issues. We are now back in open session. And to begin this part of the meeting, I need approval of the minutes from our March meeting.
With the correction noted, as Dave Betcher was not in attendance at the last meeting, so we will make that correction.
Okay. So
Second.
approval by Julie, second by Jack. With that
With that correction.
correction,
With that correction.
all in favor of those minutes being accepted?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, I need approval of the agenda, and if there are any additions or anything there, Randy?
As written.
Okay, need approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. With every monthly meeting, we do take any comments about agenda items. And at this point, if there's anybody in the audience that would like to address the board, you may do so. If not, just know that that is always an option available to the public, that you may come and address the board at this time of the meeting. Thank you. Moving on to administrative reports, starting with our student. Your cohort is
She is at lacrosse.
at
Lacrosse.
She
lacrosse.
is in the midst of a game right now.
Perfect.
So there is a sheet for you guys to follow along with a really fancy looking picture. So I'll start off. There's actually a new club that's going on at our school called the Notebook Club. Senior Tegan Davis is starting it this week, and she's creating this club with a goal to create a space where students can respond to writing and or drawing prompts, or just work on their own writing or drawing in a safe space. They can express artistic ideas, respond to prompts, and as you can see in the picture, it's hopefully going to be very colorful and a really fun time. They're starting it this Wednesday during contact time in Miss Doucette's room, and she's going to see where they can go from there.
Nice.
Then Spanish Honor Society has finally started the Pulsera Project sales this week. They're selling bracelets all day for $5, along with handmade bags for $15. All the proceeds go back to the Nicaraguan artisans who make them, and the sales will also go on within the community, so everybody in the community hopefully has the opportunity to purchase them, and they will go on at Piggly Wiggly and M&M's throughout the next 2 weeks. And if anybody would like to look at them, I have my own little collection here. If you want me, do you guys want me to pass them around?
Yeah, sure, please.
Alright, we'll start over here.
Please.
I've kind of got a few of them because I really like them, but they're really cool and they have all sorts of different designs, so it's really awesome, and all the proceeds go directly back to the artisans, so none of it goes to us, which is really awesome.
Mr. Summers is really looking at those carefully over there.
You have a daughter and a wife, and boys can wear them too, right?
They're
Okay.
cool for
Headbands, Steve.
everybody.
Everybody
Absolutely.
can
All
wear them.
ages, all genders. Goes for, even your dog could probably wear it.
There you
Cute
go.
little dog.
There you go.
And then next is the National Honor Society. They actually have their annual induction ceremony tonight at 7. They will be inducting new members and giving seniors their pins. And they will also be witnessing a speech by our very own Mr. Kirsten. He's very excited. He was telling me that this is his first time ever being at a National Honor Society induction ceremony, and this is his first time speaking.
Yep.
So he's pretty excited, which is super awesome. And obviously National Honor Society is really excited to have him. And finally, GSA, which is also Gay Straight Alliance acronym, is beginning Pride Week this week. They began the week with the quizzes today, which is kind of like a little quiz that people can take to test their knowledge on certain things. And are continuing on with a pancake breakfast tomorrow, a tie-dye day on Wednesday, ice cream during lunches on Thursday, and a National Day of Silence on Friday.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was actually at school today and I heard those announcements about the weekly, or about the daily events. That was nice to have a little review.
Of course, and they have the flag up and everything, and it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Perfect.
So what does the day of silence mean? They're gonna be quiet all day?
That is probably not going to happen within the high school, but I think it's just like a day of respect to pay tribute to people who have either been like bullied or had struggles throughout their life, along with just like show tolerance and support for the people.
It's a national day that's celebrated across the country, and I believe what they do is they just they choose to be silent that day. That the kind of the rules are, if you're spoken to in class, you need to speak and participate. But overall, it's kind of a personal choice that some individuals can choose. So.
But the school as a whole, I'm guessing, will probably be a little louder.
Thank you very much. So we will see you yet in May, will May be
Yes.
your last report for us?
It's prom this weekend too, right?
It is,
Oh, prom.
that one I kind of figured, but yes, prom is this weekend, and fingers crossed it's not.
No snow.
No snow.
We're good.
Was that last year we almost canceled?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we had
Yeah.
a blizzard, I remember
that
scraping
was
off
fun.
my car and my prom dress, I was like, this is
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
Now I
Hopefully it'll be
vision.
a day like today.
Anea, you've been here for 2 years.
I know,
I know. What are you gonna do at Monday nights?
it's gonna be so sad.
That's right.
Well, we know we always meet, so,
Yeah.
You know, anytime you get
You
home.
can always
Next
go
time
back.
I come back from college, I'll be.
There you go.
okay.
I'll be back with the student report from college.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Guys, have a good rest of your night, guys.
Thank you.
Next we have our teacher report, Kyle and Ashley.
I go by myself.
Well, first of all, the WTA would like to congratulate Jack and Dave and Judy for their election. Congratulations, and we look forward to working with you some more. And then the WTA is also in the process of deciding who our friend of education will be this year. So we look forward to having someone to present at the dinner coming up.
Get some great candidates as well this year, so as every year. Then our last thing is we will be selecting a scholarship winner in the next couple of days here. We were reviewing some applications today. I believe the deadline has now passed, so we will be spending some time as a unit going through some of those essays and applications and be picking a winner pretty shortly here. So and I believe that's all we have for you tonight.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to board reports, but before I ask for the individual reports, I have a few things to say about Gary. It's kind of a bittersweet night tonight. After 9 years, Gary's moving on, and I do want to thank you, Gary, for all you have done for the board, all the time you have given to the board, and just how you have represented us. It's just been wonderful. So, representing the board and administration and really the whole community, I kind of reached out to people you sit with here on a monthly basis, and I asked them to share some comments. So I would like to share those with you. First of all, someone said you provide great insight into our community, and I think that that is so true. You know a lot of people. You keep aware of what's going on in the community, and you are very willing to bring that back. You always take the time to learn about an issue, and you will always ask critical questions. Gary made a very significant impact, in particular through his leadership as board treasurer for 7 years. Thank you for that. You have provided leadership putting together the 2014 referendum and provided a very important voice when we were working on the approval of the 4K program. And I think that has been a wonderful addition to our district. Gary's not afraid to roll up his sleeves and put in the work. Gary is an excellent board member, truly committed to ensuring that Waunakee students achieve at the highest level. 2 pages. Gary's always willing to ask the difficult questions, but always respecting differing opinions. He truly cares about the school district. He has made me a better board member by working alongside me. Gary has provided excellent leadership in budgeting for maintenance and not just reacting to it. You've been instrumental in that role. So, in summary, we all want to thank you, Gary. Thank you for all that you've done, all your service. You really have made a difference. So now you have to come up. So, first of all, I want to present you this plaque from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, presented to Gary Epping for dedicated service to the Waunakee Community School District.
Thank you.
You are very welcome, and here's keeping it clean so that your wife can hang it. And lastly, a certificate of commendation for you.
Thank you.
You are very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And after, we we have a lovely, display of some food over there, cake made by Julie, cookies, and, please stay and join us.
Get cookies and knowledge.
Yeah, and knowledge, a little more knowledge.
Well, I'd like to
So-
say thanks to all you.
And don't forget, Gary, you adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Yeah. We're done.
No, not now.
I'd like to thank all you. It's been a pleasure working with everybody. It's been a very respectful board in that everybody's opinion is heard. I was thinking about it today, and the schools were very good when I got on this, and I didn't screw that up, so we're still doing this fine. So it's a good thing, and I'm sure that will continue forward after gone. So thanks to everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, moving on. Now, if there's any individual board members who would like to share events or meetings, I know that Jack went to the Day at the Capitol, and Julie, you went half a day.
Mhm.
So you might want to share that, or anybody else who might have things to share.
It was encouraging. I did get to hear the panel where they had two representatives from the Republican side and two from the Democratic side, just talking about Governor Evers' proposed budget. And of course, it's very pro-public education, so we're excited about that. It was a good tempering of viewpoints with that panel, however. So I think some things probably have more chance than others of getting through. Probably the budget will be reworked through the legislature, and we'll probably kind of start from ground zero, but it's hopeful, at least with what I heard, the aspects of improving support for special ed in particular have a good chance of improving, so that is good.
Well, thanks for posting the recap. I think we heard the same thing. And obviously the boss indicated that the budget will be done on time. But, you know, when you looked at the body language, there were people talking, you know, farther apart. And, you know, as has been stated, it looks like $200 per student is gonna pass. You know, that seems to be going. Randy indicated that from other organizations. Increase for special ed funding. You know, those are the two pieces that'll pass. But, you know, if the Republicans, you know, basically do their own thing, and the entire budget's vetoed, it could be a long time before a budget gets passed. But there is hope, you know, as these people communicate and talk through the budget process.
Thank you for going. Any other board member want to share anything within the last month? Okay, as Kyle and Ashley stated, we do have unofficial spring election updates. We actually go through the different municipalities and what the clerks have turned in tomorrow morning. But it does appear that David Betcher and Jack are both back on the board, and Judy Engelbretson will be representing Gary C. So, good news. Yes.
Just on, and I don't know if anyone knows, is there a reason that Waunakee's results don't get in the paper?
I don't know.
I mean, there are school boards from all
I
over
know.
the region that were in.
I wondered
Village
that
as well.
myself.
I was just confused.
I think I can shed some insight on that. When they're uncontested races, which there were 2 seats open and there were 2 named candidates on the ballot, so sometimes they don't report them when the races are uncontested.
I
And-
wondered if that
And
might
it
be
takes longer to count the write-ins,
Ah.
so
Okay.
there's that piece too.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's just Waunakee's policy, the clerk's policy, because I asked the same question several cycles ago. You know, why don't you just post it? And they want to make sure that, you know, everything is correct.
Because our village gets posted,
Yeah.
the village seats.
So Maybe we can push for that, because I think it's.
Just nice to know.
I think it's nice to know, you know.
Okay, the appointment of an interim independent hearing officer for, pupil expulsions.
Yes, just wanted to update the board that last year you appointed and we established an independent hearing officer. Our current hearing officer is unable to serve for the remainder of this school year. And so what I'm asking the board to do is to establish an interim independent hearing officer, and I ask that they give me latitude to work through the process to find that person to serve us in that capacity for the remainder of the school year. And then at the time when we appoint for the following year, we'll have some discussions about who that individual will be on a more permanent basis moving forward. I would say at that time we should also have an alternate so that we have somebody else in place. So what I'm asking for this evening is for the board to establish an interim independent hearing officer position and delegate authority to me to find an individual to serve in that capacity for the remainder of the school year.
Okay,
Would that be through July 1st or the end of the fiscal year?
probably through August.
We could do it probably through, why don't we just say through till the end of summer school? That would be, so till August 1st.
Or the beginning of the school year?
That's fine.
First day of school next year.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think that makes sense, and I'll double check with statute of when we have to actually appoint, but if you give me that latitude, if something's different, I'll bring that back.
Make the motion to give you the latitude to appoint somebody through either August 1st or September 1st.
Okay,
Depending upon the statute.
great, thank you.
Second, any other discussion on the interim position? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect, thank you. Strategic planning.
Yeah, our strategic plan this evening is our digital learning plan. I think Tim, see Tim walking forward. All right, maybe a few folks here. So, Tim, I will turn it over to you to do our introductions of this plan. I know you saw it last month.
This is the great spot, and I will be, just give me the look, Melissa, and I'll advance this, so.
Okay.
The board saw this presentation as an information item only in a previous board meeting. We decided at that time to bring it back for more of a full discussion, since the body of work, the quality of it, and the importance of it are worthy of a further discussion. So thank you for bringing it forward here this evening.
And, this was a topic that, was discussed last month, from the information only to actually have the presentation this evening. So we're going to provide the same presentation, probably a little abbreviated, that was provided to the curriculum committee 2 months ago. Our original plan was for both of our library media and technology co-chairs, Melissa Hill and Janine Ramsey, to co-present tonight, but Janine fell under the weather as the day went on. So Melissa's here. We're in great hands with Melissa, though, and if there are pieces where Herb and I can step in, we will, but I think Melissa will be able to carry this great.
Okay.
Do you want to have?
It's nice. It's
Okay.
good. Which one is the advanced one? The one that goes to the right. The right. Okay.
Good.
So our digital learning plan, we chose the words empowered, engaged, and equitable because they are all featured prominently in the ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education, and the DBI Information Literacy Standards, and they also represent our mission with the plan here. So we have some quotes from teachers. I won't spend time reading them, but I'll leave them up there for a moment if you'd like to read, because the plan isn't just the LEMTech department, it involves everyone in the school district. So empowered, we leverage digital tools to optimize meaningful learning choices that help students reach their full potential. We have some pictures of students at the high school. At the 6-12 level, we have purchased Schoology. Okay, and this isn't my area of expertise because I'm an elementary LEM tech, but this is a, jump in and help me out with this.
So Schoology is what we would call a learning management system,
Thank you.
which is more developmentally appropriate, we feel, for our older learners, primarily in middle school and high school. Some of you may have heard of Moodle in the past. Moodle was an earlier LMS we went into around 2005. Schoology is a more up-to-date, more complete system, and we've implemented it this year.
Okay. At the lower grades, they use Google Classroom still, or something called Seesaw, which is kind of a cool multi-use tool. So these are examples of Schoology, what can happen. Students can take quizzes in it and get feedback immediately, and this also integrates with Infinite Campus, so grades are uploaded. Another example of a quiz performance. Could we do that in the absence of other LEM tech? Sarah Wendorf at Intermediate made
We wanted
this.
to give you an update on how the digital learning plan was working at Waunakee Intermediate School. We had gone to one-to-one assigned Chromebooks with our students about the same time last year. Our digital learning plan focuses on 3 elements: empowerment, engagement, and equity. For empowerment, we are working to provide instruction to our staff on a variety of different online creation tools they can use with different content. Tools such as Adobe Spark and Book Creator. And for this purpose, we created a Tech Tools for Teaching and Learning Awesome table that teachers can find tutorials and information on and what devices those programs work on. Another piece of this is student engagement, giving them different opportunities to learn. One part of engagement is teaching them how to behave online appropriately, and that involves digital citizenship. One thing we are doing for digital citizenship is our 5th graders are all receiving lessons using Google's Be Internet Awesome curriculum. And with that Be Internet Awesome comes a game called Interland, where they can test the skills that they have learned in a gaming environment. Another piece of engagement is just giving them different ways to learn how to code and express themselves. Another big piece is equity. Being one-to-one with our different devices means our different curricular areas now have access to technology that did not always have that as easily before. Things like our world language and music, and even Fayette will use our Chromebooks on occasion. It also means making sure students have access to devices so they can complete their independent practice and schoolwork. We have several students who take their Chromebooks home on a daily basis so they have access to their learning resources. That is our update for today. Thank you.
She did a really nice job on that. Yeah. So empowered is another word here. So students express themselves in an increasingly digitized world. So last summer, K-5, the elementary LEM techs and Sarah at Intermediate got together, and we went through all of our curriculum, and we went through all of the new DPI infotech standards, and we mapped out where we were meeting the standards and wrote in our learning targets for our lessons, and we looked at places where we could integrate more of the standards. For instance, we just completed a collaboration. We noticed we didn't have a lot of global collaboration, so we kids in the 5th grade made commercials for books that they thought should win the Caldecott Award, and kids in the 2nd grade watched those videos, did a mock vote, and then we got to go back and forth on how that turned out, and that was a neat collaboration we just invented this year. So staff training. We have really expanded Learning Bites. We started this last year. We came up with a concept. This year we have expanded our monthly themes. We have offerings at all different levels during the month. Some of them are the same topics, some of them are different topics that are pertinent to that grade level. We have also invented or come up with personalized PD options. Genius Hour has been very well received. It's where teachers can let us know ahead of time what kinds of tech-related projects they want to work on, and then we meet, and then the LEM techs are there to help them with those projects, and it's been a big hit. PD at Home is new this year, where we went through and we did a lot of online training for all the different programs that teachers use in the district, and a lot of those are kind of like an hour-long self-training, and then you get a certificate at the end, so teachers have been taking advantage of those too, which is great. And then the personalized PD contract is also new, where teachers can propose a tech-related project, and then they check in with the LEMTech and then complete the project and get a certain number of hours. So Sarah also mentioned our tech resources, the awesome table. It's called an awesome table because that's the program that we use to create it with, where teachers can see the different apps that are available and what's been COPA approved and what they're used for, what platform they work with. The COPA information on the right, Herb has been working on this. These are all of the programs that have been approved for being COPA approved, and he is going to further make this even more useful by having a green, yellow, and red key to that, so that especially teachers who teach kids under 13 know which programs they shouldn't be using with those students. Along with keeping kids safe online, we have in our digital learning plan websites, we have included a lot of COPA information for teachers and also for parents, for families. Of course, technology helps to engage students. We talked about collaboration, but problem solving and critical thinking are also ways that tech can help engage students in the classroom. At the elementary level, we have different maker initiatives going on, from maker spaces to video projects to doing some coding. Also at the other levels, we have pictures and examples. Green screen's really popular with students. Intermediate has coding extensions. We also want to make sure that students and staff respect their tools and use them in a responsible manner. So along with going through all the ISTE DPI standards and our library curriculum, we also have infused a lot of digital citizenship education starting in first grade, and also sending home newsletter notes to parents as we teach those lessons. This is an example of the first grade digital citizenship unit outline. I just finished working on this with students. Well, we're actually giving credit to creators right now, but the kids, they like this, and they like knowing how to stay safe online. At intermediate, they do Be Internet Awesome, which is a Google initiative. And then here's an example of a think sheet. So students will fill this out if something happens with their technology. High school, this is an example of a handout and some activities they did at the beginning of the year when they rolled out the one-to-one. We also want to support teachers and students as they learn copyright rules and as they integrate images and music into all of their projects to make sure that they know that they're following the law and how to give credit to the creators. Equitable is our last term. There's a picture of students working with their devices. We've had a lot of great feedback at the elementary schools about the availability of devices and being able to work with their students on the devices and how well received they are by the students. A lot of stuff going on in these pictures here. One of them is internet access at home, which is something that they do at the high school for students who don't have that. They can check out these smart spots. Again, I'm a little out of my area here, so if anybody has anything to add.
So these are called Kajeets, and they're something that Herb arranges for through his budget. And for students that don't have solid internet access at home, that's how we fill that equity gap in. They can check out a Kajeet, and then they have that access to their schoolwork.
Do they check that out for a year, Tim, or just on a nightly basis, or?
Herb, that's a good question. What's the duration of a Kajeet checkout?
So for the most part, it's by project.
Okay.
So some students have kept them for a month, up to a month, but then they'll bring them back.
Okay.
But for
So
the most
you-
part, yeah, and we've also checked them out to some of the intermediate students and to some of the middle school students. So it's not just the high school, but it's all those grades.
Is it accurate to her that the Khajiit has some limitations? It's just not a wide open pipe to the
Correct,
internet?
correct, yeah, one of the other slides, we talk about I don't know, you're not too big. Just some of the security measures that we put in place for students. With the Khajiits, we have to filter them. 9 through 12, we allow the students to take the Chromebooks home, so we have to filter them just like if they were sitting in a classroom, so that's been kind of a hurdle that we had to come over this year. But yeah, so they're heavily filtered just like we do at school. I
Thanks,
go over on the
everyone.
camera.
Okay, so management, at the elementary school levels, I can say that I'm very happy to have JAMP because I used to update all of our iPads by hand and load apps on them by hand. And JAMP has just been fantastic because now I can do that all from my computer. The initial setup was some work, but now it's wonderful. The other examples up here are from other levels. There's a picture from the high school when all of the Chromebooks came in and how Becky Castle organized the rollout for that. DistributeQ is a program they use to assign the Chromebooks and distribute them. The homegrown solution is from the middle school. They keep track using a Google Sheet of inventory and serial numbers. And then we all have access to the Google admin, so our Chromebooks and devices are in there too, so we can see at my level, what grade level the Chromebooks are assigned to, and when was the last time they were used.
Okay.
Do kids keep the same Chromebook from year to year? You know, like if you're fifth and go to sixth, you know, you've got.
Yeah, in principle, yes. I mean, there will be some situations where you do have some attrition, but yes, the students will check them in over the summer.
Right.
But then if they continue in that school, they should get the same Chromebook.
Here are examples of how we make our content equitable for students. So we have a lot of databases with, they read aloud, they have multiple language offerings. Google Voice Typing is something that a lot of students use. Lots of tools for new English language learners. And there are some examples of databases on the side there. And every database has tools.
That's a subscription, right?
These are
databases?
subscriptions, yes.
Do we look at teaming with you know, the library at all?
Yes.
So
You know, on sharing costs for some of these, or is that viable?
We are
or not?
part of a consortium called WILS, the Wisconsin, I don't even, it's been so long since I looked at the
Library
whole.
Service, I think.
Thank you, WILS, and so we pay them a little bit of money and then we get discounts on these databases because a lot of schools' resources are pooled that way. The library, you know, does have Overdrive, so sometimes if we don't have an audiobook, we will refer students to Overdrive to get one of those.
And on top of that, Jack, the state of Wisconsin also has some statewide subscriptions to databases that we plug into as well. So-
Badger Link,
Yeah, Badger Link, which is pretty complete.
yeah, it's great. So we have procedures to keep tools working properly. So at the high school, there's a student Chromebook help desk with a cool sign and kids who man that. And at the intermediate school, there's a SWAT team that goes out and it
I
is
think we have time for a little
it is pretty
SWAT team
cute.
Our mission is to ensure that learners are effective, safe, and self-assured users of ideas, information, and technology for lifelong learning.
There's only one SWAT team member per 6th grade village.
Hi there. You should visit the SWAT team website, linked in Mrs. Frank's webpage, for troubleshooting tips for Chromebooks. It's no joke. Our job is to help students and staff with special tech projects.
We meet each week to create podcasts and screencasts with tech tips. One of our jobs is to help with the green screen.
Hey, in the spring, all SWAT team members will be graduating. For that reason, we'll be teaching future SWAT team members from 5th grade in the spring to become the SWAT team members of next year.
I'm leaving them out there.
Green screen. So, as we go along, we gather input, primarily through our Learning Bites exit survey. So we, at the end of the year, we'll look at all this data and use it to improve our offerings for next year and come up with our topics for our professional development. And we want you to know we have spent a lot of time on tech this year, but we still love our books.
I think Melissa did a great job of, taking us through this presentation, which is really just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we talk about the digital learning plan, and I know, your discussions around this table, and this is kind of really where the board really clears the way is on the resources piece. There's obviously a lot, and you can't do it without those resources. And so the one-to-one has been hugely instrumental, but there's a lot more to it. I mean, there's professional development, and I really commend Melissa and the rest of her colleagues in the department for the amount of professional development they provide for teachers, but also they have really been one of our cutting edge groups in terms of developing new flexible options for teachers. Teachers have to learn so much just for their content area, plus the technology. And this is something we've heard from teachers over the years is, how can we make this flexible for my life so I can have some work-life balance? And I think with the PD on demand, personalized contracts, the Genius Hour, I think our library media specialists and tech integrators are really rising to that challenge. And then of course there's the subscriptions and the online platform. So at some point in the future we would love to do something a little more extensive than what we were able to do tonight. But there are a lot of different aspects to it, and so I think we'll kind of need to prioritize what you want to delve into a little more deeply. But again, I really want to thank Melissa and the rest of her colleagues for the great work they've done for us.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks, Melissa.
Yes, just as entertaining the second time. Okay, moving on to announcements.
I just have one announcement. It's not in your packet, but it came through my desk today. Abby Schmeiser received a perfect ACT score. So a perfect 36. So that's just getting promoted. She gave Mr. Kirsten the green light to send that out via Facebook and what other means. But I just wanted to pull up that email and share that news. That's awesome.
I also wanted to share, I lucked across on PBS the broadcast of the Final Forte competition, which is youth orchestra and a soloist competition, and they take it down to the last 4 candidates, and they get to play a piece where they're featured solo with Wisconsin Symphony and Grace Kim from Waunakee on the cello. Won the whole entire thing. The performances were absolutely amazing, and I think I'm correct in saying that usually whoever wins that contest gets to be featured at one of the concerts on the square this summer and play with Wisconsin Chamber Orchestra. So it was phenomenal. It would blow your socks off. So look for it and go see Grace at concerts on the square.
Board retreat.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She did an awesome job.
Thank
Great.
you.
Can we move our meeting location?
Yeah. So maybe, it's Wednesday nights. Moving on to committee reports, starting with facility committee.
I want to thank Mark for stepping to the plate so that we had 3 members on the committee to review the facility agenda and so forth. At the meeting, we talked about energy savings opportunities, which you can review, those projects. And that, one of the things that we asked Steve to do, and thanks for doing that, is we asked him to put the paybacks in. And when you look at labor and everything else that goes along with it, paybacks are between 3 and 5 years, if you look at review. We also talked about the capital projects that were in process, 18, 19, going into 20, or 19, 20. List of those are there. And then we talked about the planning for the soccer stadium upgrades. Looked at, one of the things, conversation around the table was we want to evaluate all of the fields as far as the status and when do we have to make or when is it recommended that we make improvements. So we have the person that or the company that's been doing it provided a proposal, and then Rutler, who worked on the Warrior Stadium, will enhance that particular work from the rigs maintenance plan. So basically, what we're doing, we approved all of this through all three of these through the committee, and I think we're going to ask the board to approve them as well.
Yeah, we can start back at the top where Jack left off with the energy conservation projects. This is for 2 years, 18, 19, 19, 20. It's the allocation of the $83,894. That dollar amount was the amount that we reallocated when we paid off this building, if you recall, a few years ago. So the recommendation there, which was recommended by the committee, was for the 18, 19, 19, 20 energy conservation projects.
So I need a motion for that?
So move.
Second.
Any other discussion on the energy conservation project? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
All right, the next item was the 1920 capital maintenance projects. If you recall, going back post-referendum, we had some dollars that we had moved into our fund balance and allocated them for facility maintenance projects, while at the same time we've been taking other budget dollars and building up our Fund 41. So the purpose of the agenda item here tonight is to move forward with the projects that we've allocated through the facilities committee. These are the ones that are still from referendum dollars out of our fund balance and are allocated for facility purposes. And so this was our review of projects that you looked at last year, and they've been updated with the facilities committee, and there's a recommendation for approval to move those projects forward.
What's the total amount on that?
That I don't know. Do you have a number of the total on there? You can pull it up.
128?
You got it there, Rebecca?
Is that the 568,900?
Yeah, the 75,000 at the top was a carryover from this current year over to next year.
The bottom.
Correct. The bottom's the energy conservation. It's near the top.
You're up here.
Yep.
So all of these items are falling within the allocated budgets. We also had a carryover of the 75,000 from projects from this current year to move those dollars over to the facility projects that we've articulated.
So if you just scroll down there a little bit, you can see the years, right?
Yep, other way. Yep, those are all the energy conservation ones, and then these are all the items that are articulated for the replacement.
I see. Divided up. Yeah.
It's divided up between years. And the starting blocks showed up because those are really getting bad. Our swimmers will go like jumping quicker.
So a large conversation we had at the facilities committee was utilizing the large spreadsheet that you've seen over the 20-year facility maintenance that we've worked on with Findor. These projects are pulled off of there, and then we also are keeping that up to date as projects are completed, and then moving forward. As Jack articulated, the starting blocks are for the swimming pool, and those are at a point where we need to replace them. So you can see there wasn't an estimate early on. There's a 1920 estimate because it's a new item for our list. So we've reviewed this with our highest needs. That's an area that needs to go. So we have the dollars associated with it and the dollars within the budget to pay for it.
Move approval of the 2019-2020 capital maintenance project list as submitted.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay.
Athletic field assessment?
Athletic field assessment, this is really two pieces, one with regards to Rich Riggs and one with regards to Rattler. This is specifically to take a look at our fields assessment. There's two pieces that are moving here simultaneously. One of them is involving Rattler to do a more deeper look into our the specifics of our soccer stadium, particularly given the community group that is wanting to raise funds for that stadium project. One of the things we've discussed at the facilities committee, and I believe here at the full board table, was with regards to having our own assessment of that to determine the timing of when we would need to move that project forward, and also based on some of the needs that are associated there, what some of the costs associated with that would be. So that's the first piece. The second piece is Rich Riggs has been really our turf management consultant for a number of years. His last report has really come to the end of where we're at that point now where we've done all the things in his initial report, and we would like to now bring him back to do a full assessment of our green space and our fields to see how are they maintaining, are they doing what they're anticipated to be doing, and are there any things that we need to change in that program. So I believe that this field assessment is to us get a better assessment so we know really the status of where we are with the soccer stadium, and two, to get an assessment of how the rest of our fields are maintaining, and then looking for recommendations how to maintain them for the future.
When we talked about that, we talked about playgrounds as well.
Yeah.
So it's just not the athletic fields, but playgrounds.
Yeah, so when you look at like at schools like Prairie and other areas behind Heritage that certainly have multi-use, we'll be taking a look at those and then adding in the fields also that are really just playground use to make sure that we're maintaining them as well.
Okay, so I need a motion for that recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And last, the stadium.
The last item is a master planning proposal from again Rattler Corp. This one you'll see is a much larger proposal. What is in front of you tonight is only the phase one, which is the $2,500 really fee that starts to look at master planning with regards to the soccer stadium, and also assistance with putting together any level of diagrams that would be part of that master plan for any fundraising efforts. This is a similar and parallel process to what we did with Warrior Stadium a few years ago, and the $2,500 will be picked up by the fundraising group.
Need a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion on the stadium project?
Yeah,
funding?
I guess my overall question would be is, like as Randy just said, this is largely, or apparently just about the master planning and fundraising support. I don't understand quite why sections B and C are in subsections B and C are in number 11 on the schedule of fees, because that's talking about things after some point, which seems obscure to me exactly when this will happen. And I guess I don't know what the trigger is for when you shift from that phase to the next phase, because I haven't gotten any updates on fundraising or
Right.
anything yet.
What will happen with the next phase is the first piece that you're being asked to approve tonight is simply just taking a look at that space, doing some master planning for how things could lay out, and doing some real graphic overlays of what the vision for that would look like. The second and third part of that would certainly, the triggers for that are really board action. That's either going to come at a point where we decide that we want to move something forward based on a need from our assessment, or B, when there is the fundraising complete to trigger the installation of any item that is associated with that. So the trigger for any other aspects of that proposal would be an action of the board through a recommendation. And those are either going to be things that are going to be associated with things that we develop a financial commitment to, or that will have to be and could financially be accomplished through a fundraising committee.
And at this point, the board has not authorized any funds for this at all and hasn't told anyone
No.
that we will be putting funds for it, correct?
We have articulated that we are not putting any funds towards this right now. Part of the reason we are doing the field assessment from the previous agenda item was to get a sense of what the status of that soccer field is, and then we will utilize that to determine if at this point that we feel we have a financial obligation to move forward or a desire to move forward. But that'll be the trigger for us really deciding as far as the timing of that aspect of it. But the B and C items on the proposal that you're referencing, Mike, are ones that would not become active without an action here at the board level, and would be really at the point of allocating funds either through fundraising or district. But at this point, we have not allocated, nor have we articulated that we are going to make a recommendation for allocating district funds towards the project.
That said, it's key, just like what it was with Warrior Stadium and everything. If you do something, how do you replace and take care of it after? Because with these, you have a group that's really wanting to do something that's just great, but it ends up that the school district gets it, and then it's how do you take care of it after that? So.
Right, and that's been part of the dialogue as well.
And I think we've been, just to make that clear, I think we've been talking about if you're gonna fundraise, you gotta fundraise for the replacement of the carpet as well. So, you know, the field is probably about a 10 to 12 year field. If we've got money in the foundation, I think they've talked to the foundation.
Yes.
To put some money aside so that, you know, it's a 20-year project before, you know, we have to figure out the next phase.
Okay, any other comments? If not, we have a motion on the table for moving this forward. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on, thank you for facilities, to budget committee.
Okay, our committee meeting, Steve presented the monthly projections from Forecast 5. If you saw in the minutes, our projection compared to over the last 5 years, in January we'd have a surplus of about $350,000. For February, we're down about 150, so we're at about 207 on projections compared to the previous 5 years. He reminds us that end of the year we're going to have $500,000 plus deficit in Fund 10 that has been reallocated to Fund 41 and to cover maintenance costs. And then for budget planning purposes, we talked about a number of issues. One of them was the actuarial proposal, which is coming before us. I'll let Steve summarize that for us. And there was also discussion from the audit report as to what we wish to do for our inventory of resources, whether we wish to contract as an outsource company to help handle that for us, or continue to handle it internally. And at this point, on that particular issue, we as a committee recommended working internally with some computer software. So Steve, if you want to talk about the actuarial part, because I think that we need a vote on that.
Just one other thing, if I could add, Mark.
Please do.
I did request feedback from the budget committee members on the potential for a special board meeting with the teacher leadership team and the administrative cabinet. I brought that up because we've done that the last couple of years. We had it slated in the timeline. I asked the committee members what their feedback was about that particular topic, given the uncertainty with the state budget, we did talk that through. The committee members felt like that was a very valuable process that we've been doing the last couple of years. And later on tonight, when we get to the scheduling of the special meetings, if we could just keep that in mind.
Yep. We have a doodle poll that'll give us some feedback on some dates that are possible.
And then for part two, there is, number two, excuse me, there is a recommendation from the budget committee to move forward a proposal to select a new actuarial firm. You may or may not remember this, but with our new audit firm, their first audit report to the board recommended changing actuarial firms. It's an every other year cycle to go through a full actuarial process, so this would be the first time since that audit report where we would have a full cycle. They recommended 2 firms. We obtained proposals from both firms. Those proposals were included in the budget committee packet. The budget committee took a look at those proposals and is recommending tonight the proposal from Key Benefit Concepts. Again, that's one of the 2 firms, our actuarial firm, highly recommended that we take a look at. That would be a change. We had previously worked with a firm named Willis, so this is a recommendation for a new firm based on the feedback from our auditors and with a motion from the budget committee tonight to recommend the approval from Key Benefit Concepts. I'd be happy to answer any questions any board members have about that.
So I would like to see a recommendation for that.
Move approval of the proposal from Key Benefits Concepts that they be hired as our actuarial firm going forward, as recommended.
Second.
Any other discussion or questions that Steve could answer? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And we are down to consent agendas. So we can take them all. There's quite a list. We can pull anything out, however you would like to deal with this list.
I'm not really gonna suggest that we pull something out, but I just will share that I have a concern over how long these have become, and they tend to come up then at the end of the meeting, and it feels like we kind of pass it as a slam dunk. So I have a concern that we don't get more comments on stuff from the consent agenda this late in the meeting, particularly as it relates to the finance reports. Steve does a lot of work to prepare those. I never know when we're approving it how deep a dive anyone did. So I don't know what to do about it.
But maybe when we do our evaluation, that would be a perfect time
Great.
to, I think, discuss the whole makeup of our meeting and that
More appropriate.
particular
Good suggestion,
issue.
Joe.
Yeah, we can talk about what you're comfortable being in consent or not. We
Yeah.
can talk about that tomorrow night.
Let's list that
And
as
you can pull out, I mean, we all know that, but you can, if there's something that we really see in our preparation that should be a pullout, I'd recommend that we do. It doesn't take that much more time, and it certainly is deserving of the scrutiny. With that in mind, I just, I was pleased to see some of the positive numbers in the wellness report.
Yeah.
It looks like our cost ratio is down. And when you look at the monthly cost from a year ago to the current year, from July to February, we saved, it was less, so I was pleased to see the savings. And it still continues to confuse, the numbers of usage, to me, it looks like it's an unpredictable number. We can't necessarily go by that, but at least the financial piece is a very positive spin at this particular month. So I was pleased to see those positive numbers.
I guess I would just have one comment to piggyback on what Julie said, and that I think that that's a really good point. Julie, that there is a lot in the consent agenda, and the way I kind of deal with that is I try to find at least one or two annoying questions that I can email Steve or Kurt or Tim on any given week about something that I don't understand or have questions about. And generally their answers are so good that and I always do it through email because I expect it could be requested if anybody wanted to see it. But I will ask a question about something and their answers are so good that I don't feel need to pull it out in the consent agenda. And as to them being really long, I do closely monitor other school districts because I work in them so often, and I look at Madison's every month, and if you think our consent agenda is long, just look at Madison's. They deal with million-dollar issues and there's no discussion at all. So I think it's well said that we have staff that really do a lot to prep that stuff, and it's worth a reading, but I think it could be a lot worse.
One other way you could do that is you could have it somehow in the budget stuff, because it gets discussed there some anyhow.
Yeah.
And then it would be a little discussion with that during the budget time, and then skip it on the consent, because consent goes with whatever. So maybe when we do budget, because you talk about that all the time there, maybe you have a blurb or an inclusion there, and then that would get discussed every time.
Yeah.
We can
And
talk about it more.
And it used to be that way, but yeah,
Right.
let's talk about that tomorrow
Yeah,
night.
I do appreciate when there are a few comments. I
get
feel
it.
better past
Because that would be a great time for you to give the budget committee, who you're gonna do that with anyhow, some heads up on it, if anything's concerning,
Yeah.
or if anything's out of order, or whatever, like you've been doing with the 540,000 that we've been discussing for the whole year, but at least that would happen every time.
Good discussion. So with that, are we ready to make a motion for the consent agenda or pull anything out?
I move we approve the consent agenda as is.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion on any item in there?
The only thing I'd like to pull out is the out-of-state travel request for track, just because there's hardly anything in it and I have no idea what it's doing. And that's been my bug, in that until we have a better field trip policy for how this works, there's no explanation in this at all. I don't like it being treated by staff as if it's an afterthought when we have to approve it. And the only explanation is cost will be paid by parents.
I was curious how many students were going.
Yeah. Or how long they're gonna be gone.
Doesn't policy dictate that if it's an adjoining state, they're allowed to do that?
It does. I believe this is
In
a down and
athletic
back.
events. Now you're getting into the, I was just gonna bring up a lot of people traveling again. And the only area that we have a policy that stipulates where they can travel is sports.
Yeah.
So the only sport that has ever been, well, I shouldn't say that, there's been some lately, but softball's the only one that, they used to go to Florida and then we just allowed that. But you can have the band going here, we got, somebody's going to Costa Rica for Spanish, we got France is going to, French club's going to France. We've been around and around this all the time, but the policy does dictate for sports that they can go to adjoining states.
And I believe this is one that they go down and back for that.
I think Mr. Grabarski's indicating he maybe has some insight.
It was gonna be 4 athletes.
4 athletes.
That were gonna go compete in this regional meet, but actually Coach Grabarski contacted me and said that they're no longer gonna go.
Oh.
Okay.
They'd had to.
Perfect.
Didn't know that.
Thank
Thank
They
you.
had to have a coach go with them and for WIA
Alright.
eligibility, and the coach that was gonna travel with them is not available.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
So should we pull this?
Well, you could have
You
said
can
that
pull
earlier.
All right. If you can, I would say if we can just amend our motion to not involve the Palatine distance night.
So we need
Okay.
an amendment to the motion.
I amend.
I'll second Jack's amendment.
Thank you.
So we
Thank you,
need-
Brian.
We need to vote on the amendment first.
We're getting good at that.
I know, I love this. We are getting really good at these Robert rules. So we need, now is an amendment that we pull out the whole track thing.
That's not pulled, that we are just not voting on that
We're
this
not
evening.
voting on that. So all in favor of the amendment to the motion of pulling the track out?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So now we're gonna go back to the motion to approve the whole consent agenda, and that has been pulled out. And there is a motion on the table for that. So any other discussion on anything else in the consent agenda? If not, I need, all in favor of approving the consent agenda.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Perfect, thank you. So board business.
All right. Couple things you have in here. First of all, for our new board members, and we will communicate to Judy with regards to the new member workshop that's coming up on May 16th. We also have the staff recognition banquet on May 10th, which you will see an invite to in the board packet for you. So if you are interested in attending that, you can connect with the HR office.
I'd just like to do a plug for board members. If you haven't been there, it's a very impressive recognition ceremony. We have lots of staff who are being recognized, and I know they very much appreciate board members being there, so if you can make it, it'd be wonderful to be there.
Thank you.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and tomorrow night, we do have our board evaluation and superintendent evaluation meeting from 6 to 8. And at that time, if you could turn in any seats that you would be interested in being nominated for or running for our reorg meeting, which is on April 22nd. So we would like this in advance so that we have a sense for the reorg on April 22nd who would be interested in serving in any of those 4 seats. And we will get to David when and I could come over, or we'll get these sheets to Judy and to David when they go through their oath.
Yep.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Awesome.
So we are ready to schedule meetings.
All right, special board meeting. What we are looking for, this is the one that Steve was talking about, where we will have really a budget meeting with our extended leadership team and administration. We have put out a doodle poll to see availability, and the one that has there's 3 dates that have the most availability. Monday, April 29th, Monday, May 6th, or Wednesday, May 8th. So April 29th, May 6th, or May 8th.
April 29th works for me.
Okay.
All 3 of those work for me.
Steve, is there a preference from a budget standpoint? No, we can make them.
I would prefer the 6th versus the 29th.
Okay.
Just complicates things a little bit, that's all.
Any others? Do the others work for you, Jack, or you just have a preference for one?
Yeah, I can,
Make
make
six. All right, 6th.
I have a trial both days, so I'll be useless anyway.
What's the third date?
The 8th.
May 8th.
Wednesday,
would
the
work.
That would be best for me. But
8th. Jack,
eight would work.
Mondays.
I can do anything.
Yeah, me too.
So, have the
May 6th.
May 6th.
May 6th.
Oh, I thought we were saying the 8th because he's got a conflict.
Oh, no, conflict, I was just.
But he says Mondays are better for him.
That's
Yeah.
fine, Monday,
Oh.
pick one of Mondays.
Monday.
May 6th is
May
fine.
6th, okay.
May 6th.
Okay.
What are we looking at, 6 to?
Well, this one this is actually an early one. This is where where we have staff coming in, so we've normally done it from like 4:30 to 6:30.
Okay.
That work?
Does that work for you, Mark?
Yes, thank you for
I'll
reminding
just
me
be a
about the
couple
time.
minutes late, that's all.
Mike?
No, on Monday, that'll be fine, perfect.
Mike?
Should be fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Very good.
can we have that motion before you go on?
Oh, thank you. Yep.
So we need a motion to have that special meeting.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, moving on.
And then we need a budget committee. And Steve, you're looking at that the first week of May.
Certainly could do it if there was interest after the special board meeting or before or anytime that week.
So could we do it, so this 4:15 is what, 6:15?
4:30 to 6:30
4:30 to
is the
6:30.
budget meeting.
Would you prefer just staying here and doing that really?
We could, it depends on
Sure.
whenever, I'd be open to that if the
Would we
committee
have new
members would
committees
be.
No,
by then?
No, we won't have new committees until May 13th,
Okay.
Will that work for you, Mark?
Sure.
because we'll have to do the
Yep, yep, got it.
reorganization. May 6th.
May 6th, that's,
Preceding the meeting, or
Pre-sale or
after,
post?
either one. and
would you
then-
rather have that meeting first with the staff and then have the budget meeting following it?
Either way works.
Okay. Why don't we do it at
Keep-
6:30?
Yeah.
Okay,
Does that work for you, Mark?
okay. So the budget would be on May 6th at 6:30 following the special meeting.
So,
Very good. The next one I'm looking for is a co-curricular committee meeting. I did not bring my list of who's on co-curriculars. We have a not for, I think that's.
Was me,
was
you were on co-curriculars, weren't you? No?
Is it
Yeah,
Mark and
I am.
Jack?
I'm sorry.
Yep.
It was
Jack,
Jack.
Yeah,
Jack
Jack.
and Mark?
Jack.
Yeah, I think it's
No,
Jack.
was it Jack? Was it? Yeah.
Well, I just need to schedule, we were going to meet more frequently to do a follow-up from winter
Yep.
season.
Mhm.
I mean, that's, kind of puts, we could do that here, or we could, when do you think we'll have committees for?
on the 13th, we'll have our committees reformed. And then you'd have a few,
I would have
a fuller, you'll have just 2 people.
could have a full committee.
It's Gary, it is Gary, Jack, and Mark.
Pardon?
Yeah.
What's that?
Gary, Jack, and Mark. You 3 are just like,
Why don't I do this? Why don't I see?
Bring your meatloaf.
well, I can never put meatloaves.
Are you, you're gonna put out meeting notice?
yeah, yes.
If you wanna meet before that,
When
maybe
would you like to
somebody,
meet?
Yeah, let's just, how about the, do we have the, we're doing that on the 6th. Do we have another date on the week of this, of, May 6th?
So if you wanna do it morning, the 8th wouldn't work. If you wanna do it the 9th, it'd have to be, or the 7th, it'd be.
Do a morning, Jack?
Yeah, we can do it morning.
If we did like, you said the 8th, is that what you said, Mark? In the
Yeah.
morning?
Yep.
7:30?
Yeah, if we did a
Does that work
7,
well with Aaron?
I'll check with him, and if not, I'll be back in contact.
All right.
So that'd be perfect.
May 8th?
May 8th, 7:30.
Yep, in the morning, yep. Perfect.
Anything else?
I don't, Steve, you and I didn't touch base. Do we need facilities right now, or, you know, Connie said HR will come in May. Include that.
Just as a reminder that the curriculum committee was previously scheduled for Thursday, the 11th at 3:30, and it will take place then.
That's all I have.
Okay,
Oh, motion to adjourn.
Oh, thank you.
anybody want a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
There you go, Gary. 8:20.
Hey.
Right on the
See?
money.
See our, a record. See how I run stuff?
Game time.
That's funny.
Unless you want to come around.
I wish they had a lot of stuff.